Hello world, my name is Tim Rossick and welcome back to another daily game dev video that will hopefully teach you how to build, finish, and launch better games. Today we're going to talk about expectation design. It's another video in my series of game design theory, which I'm going to be covering a lot of, and you can check out the playlist. It'll be down below or somewhere around here. But expectation design is something that I've been thinking about lately. I'm not sure if this is a term in game design or what. There's probably a term for it, but basically my idea of what expectation design is, I realized that a lot of good and bad reviews, a lot of things that the people feel about the game, and this applies to life too, a lot of the ways that people feel about their life or their relationships or whatever, has to do with not necessarily the thing, but the mixing and the matching of the expectation with the thing, right? If you get $1 million when you expected 0, oh my God, that's amazing. When you get $1 million but you expected 20, you're like, what the fuck is this bullshit? That's probably not a realistic example. Who was actually going to get $1 million? That's stupid. But you get the idea. So most of the time, problems that arise in both like life, but also game design happen from a mismatch of expectations with the reality of the thing. And how this applies to game design is simple. I think a lot of people set improper expectations up front. And as a result, it can end up in people having a worse experience with your game. And I'll give you a couple examples. Example number 1, have you ever seen some of these trailers that are crazy action trailers, right? They're just ridiculous. And what that trailer is doing is it's setting up an expectation. Somebody watches the trailer and they see the things, maybe they don't see any gameplay, maybe they're all like cinematic or whatever. For whatever reason, there's an expectation that comes from that trailer. And if they look at the trailer, they buy your game, they play your game is not like that trailer. That trailer did not give an accurate representation of what your game was. It did not get them excited enough for the game, or it got them excited in a different way. They thought it was a different job. Whatever it is, if the expectation is not in line with what they thought it was going to be, where otherwise they might have had fun with the game, now their lens is straight through this expectation and they can actually have a bad experience. They can leave a bad review, they can refund it, they can do whatever they want. So I do believe, and this is why I feel so strongly about marketing, because I feel like marketing is the expectation design for your game, right? It's the lens with which people view your game. People think of marketing as advertising, like they got to buy ads or they got to post on Reddit or they got to post on Twitter or whatever. I don't see marketing that way. I see marketing as the messaging and all of the external outreach that your game has, including screenshots and trailers and stuff like that, including anything that comes from your game that other people will see outside of your game. I consider marketing, and all of that stuff creates this expectation from people coming in, right? Now, let's talk specifically about how it applies in-game, because I've seen this happen a lot. And I do Feedback Friday, the first Friday of every month on twitch.tv/Tim Rossick, if you don't know. But basically, I play indie games live, and I give feedback, and the whole chat gives feedback, and we kind of go back and forth on this. And one of the things that I see a lot is either people that have no tutorial at all, right? They either give me what's essentially a tech demo. It's a working technological thing, or people that have these overbearing, ridiculous tutorials that just hold my hand completely. I'm going to talk about that one first, and then we'll get to kind of the more open-ended one. I don't know if you've ever played a mobile game or anything like that where they've got these tutorials where they basically tell you where to tap. They show a little highlight thing on the phone. They're like, tap here, go here, do this. Now, you do that a couple times. It might be engaging, right? It might engage you up front. But in my experience, what you end up doing is just literally doing what the phone tells you to do, right? And then I've noticed this a couple times with myself. I'll be like, okay, go here, tap this, gotcha, okay, did that, right, boom. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. What is this game? How do I play this game? I don't understand this game. And that's literally the experience, because what happens is this game, this first intro to this mobile game, has created an expectation. It's created an expectation that my hand's going to be held, that I'm going to be told exactly what to do. And so the problem isn't necessarily some of those tutorials. It's the fact that the tutorials create this expectation. They design this expectation up front that my hand is going to be completely held and that you're going to tell me exactly where to click. And so coming into that game, my first experience ever with this game is this way. it's this thing, it's this interaction, and now you just left me, and I'm sitting there like, what the hell do I do? I don't know what to do. And it's not necessarily a problem with the game, because a lot of the games you can figure out, right? If they're fairly intuitive, if the UI is fairly decent, you can figure most games out. And actually, there are some games that just kind of drop you into it. Maybe they like limit content or something, so you don't like get crazy or too lost. They just kind of let you figure things out. And it really depends on the type of game, but that experience that you have up front, that expectation, that initial experience sets up the expectation for the rest of the experience. So if you have a very hand-holdy tutorial up front, and then you drop somebody in a sandbox world, that can be bad, because what you said is, this is what you should expect, that we're going to hold your hand. Like, you can think of it, a person literally like listing out different things, right? If your game is a person, it's saying, you can expect us to hold your hand. You can expect us to tell you where to go. You can expect us to give you a full GPS that tells you the exact location of all quests. You can tell us here, like, it's literally, that's what it's telling them. And so then when you drop them in a world where that's no longer true, it's like, wait, what? Wait, what? If you take this compared to something like, I don't know, like Don't Starve, right? Don't Starve just kind of plops you into a world. Figure it out. Figure it out. And one of the reasons why I think that game is rated so well and why it's done so well is because their tutorial and their system is all based on the same experience, right? Like, the first experience you have with that game is figuring out what to do and how to survive, right? The game's called Don't Starve. That's what the whole experience is about. That's what the whole game is about. And so the mid game and the end game, they're all the exact same experience as that first beginning game. Of course, you're doing different things or collecting different resources or whatever. But it's interesting to see that, like, their experience design, their initial expectation that they're building of the game is the same as what the actual game is. Where in some games it's not aligned like that. Some games it's completely different and it breaks. There are games that do the opposite of what we just talked about, whereas they don't start with a hand-holdy tutorial and then they drop you in like an open world, but they start with like the open world, but then they try to like tutorialize things as you discover them. And the problem is, like, if I've jumped into a game and I'm trying to figure out the game and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden this tutorial prompt appears, it says go here, do this, blah blah blah, and it's interrupting me. Like, you can watch this, you can watch streamers play this stuff on YouTube. It's like they get frustrated. They're like, close this, what is this, I don't want this, turn this off. Because the expectation is, figure this stuff out, you know, poke around in some menus, click on some stuff, figure it out. But then they're met with like this pop-up like thing, tutorial, blah, 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 blah. It's in your face. So you've got to be careful, because a lot of times, like, what players say about your game, the feedback that you can get from them can be things like, I wish there were quest markers. I don't know where to go. I'm lost. But that might not be the actual feedback. That could be the expectation that you as a designer has given them, right? If they don't know where to go and they're getting lost, why? Why could that be? Did you tell them where to go in the beginning? And is that what they expect from the game? Does the trailer or the marketing or anything in the lead up to the game lead them to believe that the experience they're going to be getting is an experience like that? Did you do your expectation design properly? Are you designing what players should expect from not only from the marketing end, but also from the game design end, right? Because I look at this as one giant funnel, all the way from the marketing down to the end game. And when you think of a funnel, like, I guess an upside down pyramid would probably be a better example, but you start out with a bunch of people, and then only a smaller section of people make it to this section, only smaller people make it to this section, only smaller people make it to this section. The way that you increase the travel between those levels is by making sure that the expectations and the reality are on point. Because a lot of people think that, oh, well, they just didn't like the game wasn't for them. And they say that for the marketing too. Oh, they didn't like my stuff, so whatever, I don't want them to buy it. But what actually happened was, it was a disconnect between what you said it was and what it was. It wasn't necessarily, it's not their genre. It wasn't necessarily they didn't like the game. It was that they expected A and they got B. So you got to be careful of the expectations you set up, both in game design, but also in marketing and in life, right? Like, it's like, you know, if you tell your boss it's going to take 1 week, but it takes 2, they're upset. If you tell your boss it's going to take 4 weeks, but it takes 2. They're happy. You know what I mean? Expectation design is a whole nother life lesson that we could talk about for days, but I wanted to kind of talk about it in the game design sense, and I think it's fascinating for use in game design. So that's all I got for you. I want to say thank you to these lovely people right here for being a part of the Patreon and helping me keep doing what I'm doing. It's tremendously helpful. But also, if you want your name on this list, or you want plenty of the other benefits that I offer patrons, you can check out patreon.com/GameDevUnderground. My name is Tim Roswick, and I will see you tomorrow in another daily game dev video.